What's up, guys? I'm Evan Wick.
And I'm Patrick Spray.
This is episode 9 of Washed
Washed
Up.
up.
Coolio. Rolling into it.
Let's go.
Episode 9.
Yeah,
We've been
man.
doing
It's
this damn thing.
been a little bit. Where
Where you at?
where were you recently?
I was in Croatia, and then just before that, I was in Japan. It was pretty sweet. Japan's
Yeah.
sweet. I
You're from Croatia. You're Croatian
Yeah, my family's from Croatia, and I was a little bit disappointed. I don't like Croatia.
at all?
No, it's expensive. It's a little rundown. Um, but I mean, I guess some people like Europe. I'm not a big Europe guy. I've been to a couple of different countries in Europe. I'm not a huge fan. But Japan was sweet. I really recommend traveling to Japan, and I hate traveling.
You hate traveling? You travel a lot. What but anyway, regardless. Tell me about Japan. What was
Okay.
so cool about it?
Well, I guess I could just talk about what Japan is like. It's very
I've always
modern.
wanted to go to Japan, so I think it's pretty cool.
It's very modern. It's very cheap. It's also kind of a different culture. Like people are very polite. You don't talk on the subways. It's considered rude to talk on your phone indoors, which is totally normal for us in the United States. But dirt
Yeah.
cheap, dude. Like honestly, if someone's thinking about going overseas and going to a different country and they're thinking about Europe, I would really recommend they think about Japan.
Interesting. Were you
Way cheaper. Way cheaper.
over there just as a tourist, or were you training? What were you doing?
I was training and I was a bit of a tourist, but mostly training. So we went there, and so I got in touch with Takahiro Wada. He was a an Olympian for Japan, world silver medalist, and they have like, universities there where they train, and they train wrestling and stuff. So he let me train with their guys, but I don't think their university system is as good as ours. A lot of the guys were just on the national team. So while I was there, Takahiro Wada put us in contact with the national team coach, Tatsuhiro Yanamitsu, who was an Olympic champion.
Hmm.
And then I was training with the national team guys. But they do, and I had talked to a lot of guys from America, but in Japan, they do a lot of live. And when I talked to people in the United States about what
There's a lot of
training is like in Japan, a ton, insane amounts of
really.
live. Yeah, so usually it's like you drill 10 minutes water break, drill another 10 minutes water break, and then so my first day, like no time for jet lag, right into 3 matches and 10 minutes of parterre.
So they do it,
And
yeah,
then
like a significant amount of live actually.
yeah, I mean, I don't know where I've gone to train in the United States where they do more than a single match, at least at the senior level. But their senior level guys are scrapping. My last day was probably drilling for 30 minutes, 6 minutes of hand fighting, and then 4 matches. That's with the national team. Well, it was like 8 3-minute goes.
Interesting.
And that's every day. That's like that's
And
what
that
those
was
guys do
right
every
before
day.
you went over to Croatia to compete, right?
That was right before I went over to Croatia to compete. So I went like around the world. So I went from LAX to Japan, which you kind of fly over the North Pole. And then once you go from Japan to Turkey, we went to Turkey was our layover. That's kind of just straight over China. And then so we
Yeah.
went to Turkey, and then we went to Croatia, Zagreb, Croatia, and then straight back to LAX.
What was the competition? Well, so, like, first off, how was the reaction to the travel, like before the tournament? What were you thinking going into that tournament? And the hard training.
Um, I liked the hard training. I thought the hard training was really good for me. I think more than most people in the United States, I like going live. Usually, if my idea of a good practice is having a high level wrestler with me and we kind of scrap for at least 20 minutes, just trying to figure things out. So I thought the training was great, but I did think going from LA to Japan, getting settled in there, then going to Turkey, then going to Croatia was like a bit much for my body to handle. But I had like 4 days to acclimate when I was in Croatia. But dude, I'm telling you, when you go to those international tournaments, it's really hard to get acclimated because your body is your body wants to fall asleep throughout the day, but it's daylight. So I think that kind of throws off your circadian rhythm. And then when it's the middle of the night over there, your body thinks that it's in the middle of the day over here, so there's just no time. Like sometimes you'll just get like 4 hours of sleep in an entire day, which is not
Yeah.
ideal because usually I'm sleeping like 8, 9 hours. But the training was or the competition was cool. I mean, the venue was whatever. There was nobody there. There's nobody there. I mean, the Spencer Lee versus RBY match happened. And dude, that's a match that people have been waiting for years. Like,
Right.
how much was that talked about? And then all of a sudden, when it happens, I'm telling you, the stands were dead. There was not a single spectator there. I don't think. I don't think there were any spectators.
It's a
So
pretty
if you
solid
watched
match.
that match online, it was solid. It was great. It was a great match. I mean, they're both awesome competitors, but it was just like, gosh, man, this match, you could make $200,000 if you made this a card in the United States, like Ono versus Spencer Lee. If you had RBY versus Spencer Lee, you'd make a ton of money. But then we go overseas, and this match happens, and it's just like totally gets overblown. I would think it was a quarterfinal match. Like, dude, come on, that was insane. And
Who? So, quick question, I guess, on that. Who do you hold responsible for that? Like, who do you wish would have done more to like prop that matchup? Flo.
I guess flow, but I mean it's nobody's fault. I mean, I guess you could say it's the tournament's director for not making it in the finals, but even if it was in the finals, it wasn't gonna be a big deal, you know. And
Yeah.
I guess there is a little bit of like, oh, it's just a senior level match at this point, an overseas senior level match. Who cares? Like, it's not a college match, which is still just like, I guess the mentality that a lot of American fans of wrestling have, where it's like, oh, it's just international, it doesn't really matter.
I
Unless it's the
think
Olympics or
part.
Worlds.
I think part of it is the fandom that comes along with the school. You know, like I think
Hmm.
people in America are tied to schools regardless of sport, and that's always going to kind of be like a thing of pride, and that's pretty evident in like the NCAA. Just Iowa versus Penn State. The wrestlers could be irrelevant. Whoever's out there, they're going to hate each other, right?
Right.
And I think that influences a lot of hype on the wrestling in America. But like once you get overseas, there's nothing really tied to it. We know they're both from America, so it's not really like a country versus country battle. And
Yeah.
and I just don't know if there's enough high level like. So I don't know if there's enough interest in that level of wrestling to warrant
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I know Bo Nickel was on some podcast talking about why folk style is better, which like there's arguments to be had about, whether or not
What do you say?
well, he just said like, well, look at how many fans there are for NCAAs and look at how many fans there are for senior level wrestling. But which like I think is a totally flawed argument because of what you're saying. Like those people aren't fans of folk style wrestling. They're fans of wrestling and they're fans of, like we've talked about before, the W on someone's singlet or the M on someone's singlet or the Nittany Lion on someone's singlet. So I think that's a flawed argument to say, well, we have more fans in college wrestling, you know.
It's definitely a factor, though. I mean, it is different. It's different with the schools, but it's also different with the style. So, I mean, we don't know exactly what they like more.
No, for sure. But I mean, I think people are gonna watch NCAA wrestling no matter what. I mean, if I hate to put Greco in the crossfire. If you change it to Greco, people probably wouldn't watch as much. But I think if you put guys in a Penn State singlet and had them do
A
freestyle
freestyle
wrestling,
match.
people will watch the NCAAs. Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
So
That'd be an interesting argument.
yeah, I think it would
Do you
be.
think you would lose
I think it would
fans?
be.
I think you would lose fans before you gain new.
Um, I think you'd probably gain a lot of new fans, especially like foreign international fans, guys who are used to watching freestyle.
Oh, they're already watching these college kids wrestle. Maybe not like at lower level tournaments, but NCAA's
No, they're not.
at all. You're
No, they're
telling me
not.
none of those Japanese guys watched
No,
an NCAA match?
no, nuh-uh, no. I swear,
That's
I talked to
surprising.
them. They do not
That's
watch.
surprising.
They do not watch folk style wrestling. And I talked to I was training with this guy here. He's actually in Los Angeles. His name's Mo Talebi. He's a dog. He'll be at US Open this year. Everyone watch out for him. He's good. But he's from Iran. He was an Iran World Team member, U20,
Yeah,
and immigrated to the United States. But I asked him. He's like, no, nobody watches folk style wrestling in Iran.
that's crazy.
I just don't think it's very popular. They have weird, dude. They have their own events that are just like NCAA's. He's like, dude, people like millions of people watch these events, and we have no clue about it.
That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Because it's not like wrestling's that big of a community that we wouldn't hear about something like that. I would think.
You would think that you'd be able to hear about it, but they're like, I mean, it's all like Russian promoting and all that stuff. So, like, I think he was talking about Sidakov wrestling in these events and doing these matches that I've never even heard of, that it's hard to find on YouTube, but I think they have their own sites and stuff that they can watch. So it's, I mean, it's interesting, bro. We could, I think if we consolidated and made it more accessible to foreign fans, we could get more fans. But then again, I mean, how many fans are we getting? Because the viewership for NCAAs is significantly higher than the viewership for the Olympics. And so you would think that those fans would, you would think all
Yeah,
the fans of the world would at least,
if they're gonna watch
what's
those
up?
Russian tournaments, they're gonna go watch the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
So
spread
whatever
it
the
out.
viewership is for Olympics. Yeah, whatever the viewership is for the Olympics, it's not that great. So you're not getting too many fans.
Anyway, tell me about the tournament. I know maybe didn't go as well as you'd liked, but
Yeah, I'm a little bit upset about the whole repecharge deal. I hate the whole you lose a match and then you have to depend on the guy who beat you. You have to depend on him winning in order to pull you back in. So I wrestled Welch, lost to Welch I think 6-2. And then I thought that there was a consolation bracket, but then right before Welch's match, I find out no, Welch has got to win, and he lost to um, this guy from France who's actually from Dagestan. He lost to him like 4-1, and then I was out. So it's like I've traveled across the entire world and wrestled one match, and then I was out. And dude, we had this a lot. The entire tournament was like American versus American first round. It was insane. It was like totally. I think they were cooking the books, dude, because there was like five or six. Palacio wrestled James Green first round, lost, and he was out because James Green lost the next match. Like Dylan or not Palacio,
yeah,
Alec
they placed.
Pantaleo. No, Alec Pantaleo
My bad.
starts with a
Okay.
P. Um, and so he was out right away. I know someone else, two other guys who were there, at least two other guys, had wrestled each other first round, and it was like, come on. Oh, Trent Hilger wrestled Paris first round, and if he would have beat Paris, he would have wrestled Hayden Zilmer next round.
How many Americans were in that bracket total?
Three.
Out of how many? I didn't see the bracket.
I didn't see the whole bracket, but if I'm guessing 10, but they were all three Americans were on the same side
In the same little pocket right there where they're going to wrestle each other?
in the same little pocket. I mean, it was insane. It was absurd. It's like, dude, we don't come all the way across the world to come over here and wrestle each other. I mean, everyone's good competition. It is what it is. But that was frustrating. I definitely didn't wrestle my best match. Um, so it is what it is. Lost to Welch. I think if that match happens again, I think it goes a different way. But I'll be wrestling in Albania at the end of this month. So I leave in like a week and a half.
Albania? Is it another ranking tournament?
It's another ranking tournament, so it'll be me and McFadden will be in the same weight this time, 79 kg.
Okay. What weight class were you just in?
79 kg.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And then after
Um,
Albania, your next one would be U.S. Open.
yeah, US Open will be after that. So I'll have US Open. I'm already qualified for World Team Trials, so I technically don't have to go to um US Open, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I want to get competition. That's just how I operate, man. I'm not trying to get as few matches as I can. I'm trying to get as many matches as I can. Um, I think a lot of guys, I think a lot of guys try to limit as much as they can, especially because they're getting older and all this stuff. But I think when I went to Japan, like those guys are putting in the hours, and I think that's what I want to do for my training in order to get better.
Right. Hey,
Yeah,
question that just popped into my head. Have you ever competed for Pan Ams yet?
never competed for Pan Ams.
How does one kind of become qualified to wrestle Pan Ams?
Usually they'll ask the world team member,
Okay.
and then
So it's
they
kind of like a
kind of go
handpicked
down the line.
thing.
I think it's handpicked, but for the most part, it's just they're gonna go down the line and rank order and see who they can get to compete at that tournament.
Gotcha.
So,
I remember
they did
one
ask
time.
me.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your story. My bad.
They have a tournament in Cuba. Titan Mercury did ask me to wrestle, but that's only Olympic weights. So they were like, you can either go 74 kilos, which is 163. I weigh like 185, or you can go 86 kg. But then it's plus 2 kg, so it's like 88 kg. So they're like 194. So I'm like 10 pounds under.
Yeah.
So I'm just in this catch weight that I really don't want to be in.
Right. Um, no, I was just curious because I remember like back in college, Kyle Rochelle was asked to go one year, and I was like, he hasn't competed in years, so he wasn't on the ranking. Like, I don't think he was even in the rankings at that point, right?
No, not at all. And I don't know why they asked him to go.
Kind of crazy
Like you
thinking
said,
about
he
that.
had.
Kind of destroyed though.
I know he
I think
killed
he
everyone.
checked it.
Yeah, I think he took everyone. Um, but it's an interesting tournament because remember who's the Ben Provisor?
Yeah,
He went there and wrestled Greco and freestyle, and I think he won freestyle too.
I'd be
So it's
interested to ask.
interesting. Some of the weights
Like, when's the last time he wrestled a freestyle match before that?
I doubt maybe the month before he started training.
Yeah, I think he wrestled high school. I don't know this at all. This is just like my thoughts. I thought he wrestled like folk style through high school, and then he was like full time Greco guy.
What's the word on Jesse Thilke? Is he's just coaching, right?
Yeah, he's running a club over here in Wisconsin.
He was pretty good at folk style though, right? In high school?
He was really good in high school. Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember when I got there, he was like the man. But he just transferred over to Greco and made the Olympic team.
yeah. You saw
So,
who was telling you he was the man?
well, I guess just the man when it came to like he was probably one of the more successful wrestlers, period. Not folk style. I know he didn't have a good folk style year his freshman year in college at UW, but he was an Olympian, so he was. I mean, at the time, who were the good? You had Alex Dieringer came from Wisconsin. You had Thilke came from Wisconsin. I don't think there were too many superstars coming out of Wisconsin at the time, and so he was probably, one of the top three wrestlers from Wisconsin at the time.
I see what you're saying. You're saying like from high school pedigree.
Yeah, he was good. Was he undefeated?
Mm, I don't know, but I don't think so.
All right, he's good.
WrestleStat goes back that far, you think?
I guarantee you, but not for his high school matches. If I'm not mistaken, I think his first year at Wisconsin was pretty bad. I think he went like
Yeah.
2 and
I
15.
think you're funny. Did you have a single loss producer behind the scenes is giving us info? He's feeding us answers.
Single loss in high school?
Yeah, to Jake Soufflone. Where did Jake Soufflone go to school, Evan?
High school or college?
Do you know both? Give me college.
Arrowhead High School. Arrowhead
Okay,
High School, Nebraska.
there we go. Nice job. Where's he coach at now? Uh, is he still a coach there? I think he is.
He still does. He's at Purdue. Me and him scrapped a couple times.
Impressed, impressed. Nice job.
I know my wrestling history. I know my Wisconsin wrestling history. He was tight with Andrew Crone, so I knew all that stuff.
Yeah, he was tight with Crown.
Um, let's see here. Here's an interesting story or interesting question. What is the craziest Cinderella story at NCAA's that you can remember? I'll go first, since this is I know I'm
You'll go
catching you off
first.
guard with this one.
All
I'll
right,
go first. I
but
dude,
I can
so
remember.
that you can remember.
Okay.
So I'm in Croatia
Okay.
and I wake up at 1 a.m. because jet lag, right? Wake up at 1 a.m. and I try to sleep for another 2 hours. So at 3 a.m., I'm like, screw it, I'll just go on my phone. And I go on my phone, and somehow YouTube recommends me Kyle Cannell versus Colin Moore. And So I'm watching. That had to have been by far. He was a wild card.
Yeah,
Dude
that's
didn't
what I
even
was gonna say.
qualify. Yeah, did not even qualify for the NCAA tournament, and he gets a wild card to go to the NCAA tournament. And I think first or second round, beats Colin Moore. And so I watched the match. It was the one where he pinned Colin Moore. And sure enough, where I'm at, where we're in Croatia, the lobby has the food, like USA Wrestling paid for all of our meals. So it's like
Yeah,
a buffet style. And Colin Moore walks in, and he comes up and says what's up to me. And I was like, dude, you would not believe. I hate to bring up old stuff, but this morning I watched your match with Kyle Cannell, and he was joking around. He pretended to be upset about it, but we were hanging out the rest of the tournament too. But
that was after he came to Wisconsin for a visit, right?
you mean to Penn State?
Well, he came to Wisconsin when he was grad transferring.
Kyle Cannell?
Yeah, he came for a
He
visit.
took a visit. He didn't. It
That's what
came
I
for a
that's
visit. Yeah,
what I
that was
said, bro.
before. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we would have recruited him the year before. You know
No,
what I
I'm
mean?
saying I'm asking if this story is after he came to Wisconsin to visit, or if it's before.
The
This
oh
is
this
that
this
doesn't really matter.
well, so the story of him pinning Colin Moore happened before he came on a visit to University of Wisconsin.
I'm talking about the story of when you brought it up to him.
To Colin Moore, this story happened last week.
That this was last week. See, I didn't hear that
This was
part.
last
That's
week
what I wanted to know.
in Croatia. Like I just so happened to be on my phone and get recommended Colin Moore versus Kyle Cannell, and
You brought
that
this up.
morning,
I didn't know that.
dude, it's been like 7 years, so it's like whatever. He wasn't mad
Yeah,
about it. I mean, water under the bridge.
that is
But
actually a fun.
no, it was cool. But so I
All
talked to
right,
Colin Moore a bit.
I got two.
Two?
Um, I'll start with Zeke Moisey. I think him beating
Great.
Thomas Dillman in the semis, I think was a major shock. Was that the semis that he beat him in, or the quarters?
Yeah, I was there.
You were, yeah. I think he was seeded going into the tournament. Like he had done well, but that was I think his true freshman year.
True freshman year.
So I think that is a pretty good Cinderella story.
Do you remember who he beat before that?
I want to say Darian Cruz, but I don't know.
No, Nashawn Garrett.
Oh, he beat Nation Garrett. Damn.
He beat Nashawn Garrett. Then he beat Thomas Gilman. Insane, craziest. Okay, yeah, definitely way cooler than Colin Moore's story or
I
than
was gonna
Kyle
I was
Cannell's
gonna
story.
say Colin Cannell or Kyle Cannell, but I thought that was gonna be like recency bias. So I had to.
That's not too recent.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes I forget how old we are. So
That's 7 years, dude. Like, I doubt the freshmen in college know who Kyle Cannell is.
that's not true. That's not true.
I doubt. I'll ask my guys tomorrow. I'll ask my freshmen
If they don't
tomorrow
know, they've been
and
living
ask them
under
if
a
they know.
rock, and they don't pay attention to wrestling outside of like how much they're doing.
Well, no, because think about it. Think about it, dude. It's like that's 7 years ago. They're freshmen. That means that happened when they were in like sixth or seventh grade. If let's just say they did watch NCAAs, but when you're in sixth and seventh grade, you don't really lock into the NCAAs. You know what I mean?
True.
And then he
I
went
was
to
in
Penn State and didn't really do anything.
I was in like sixth or seventh grade when I first started locking into NCAA's.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, we're
And
getting
Kyle
old, dude.
Cannell,
We're getting
like
really old.
we are getting old. Stop bringing it up.
That's
Kyle
why our
Cannell,
podcast is called Washed
Cinderella
Up.
story. Well, yeah, we are washed up. It's kind of sad actually. Thanks for downing the mood. But yes, Zeke Moisey, Cinderella story. The other one I was gonna say was the Eastern Michigan kid. I can't remember who it was though.
Oh,
He
I
came
forget his
back and like
name.
took eighth or something.
I don't know if you could say eighth place is that crazy of a Cinderella
Well,
story.
that's what. But I think he was. I think prior to the tournament, he was like Kyle Cannell level, and then went on a pretty impressive run. But I think the Zeke Moisey one is more of a Cinderella story because he actually made it to the finals.
Nathan Terrell from American University.
I used to love watching him wrestle, dude. He was always in a match.
He was always in a match. He was super athletic, super fun to watch. And I remember
He had a lot of defense too. I remember from like single legs.
yeah, when people would shoot high crotches, he'd cartwheel out of it. So it was really cool. And I remember he did that against Nathan Tomasello, but he still lost.
Yeah, that was towards the end of his career, I think, though. Tarouse.
Yeah. Um, that was his senior year. That was his last match. He's from Hawaii, I think. So he had that match, and then he graduated right away from American University and went back home to Hawaii, I think.
That's an interesting story. I didn't know that.
Um,
I have a good question
another
now.
crazy, interesting story.
Go
Let me
ahead.
hear it.
You go ahead. Stick with your story. My
I was
questions.
just gonna, I was gonna talk about the Ian Miller versus Brian Robuto controversy. It was kind of random, but
Yeah.
like how the dude actually won the match and they got the score wrong at NCAA's
This is kind of crazy.
and they took it away. And then,
They took away.
dude, so I forget what it was, but they went to this. Ian Miller was wrestling Brian Robuto from Cornell. Ian Miller was from Kent State,
Kent
but
State,
Ian
yeah.
Miller was a dog, dude. Like
He was
Ian
tough.
Miller, I remember watching him. I remember him watching Tyler Caldwell at university. It was universities. That's what they called U23s at the time. University World Trials. And Tyler Caldwell was an NCAA finalist 2 times, lost to David Taylor, like 5-0, and lost to JB. He's widely regarded as one of the best guys to ever win an NCAA title. Ian Miller is wrestling him in the University World Team Trial Finals, best 2 out of 3. Goes out there, and I think inside trips him to his back and pins him in 30 seconds. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, okay, probably a fluke. Next match, goes out there, and whatever it was, ducks him to his back and pins him again in like a minute. It was insane. It was like the two coolest matches ever. And don't get me wrong, Ian Miller was a dog, right? But to pin
Yeah.
Tyler Caldwell twice in under, I think it was under at least a minute and a half, was absurd. It was sick. But anyway, Ian Miller, probably a better freestyle wrestler than he was a folk style wrestler, goes to NCAA's and is wrestling Brian Robuto in the quarterfinals. And he is wrestling him, and sure enough, I think the score is tied and it goes into overtime. But they had messed up the score. They had messed up the score earlier in the match somehow, and none of the coaches caught on.
Yeah.
Ian Miller had actually won the match. He had actually won the match in regulation.
Was it a riding time like discrepancy?
No, if you go back and watch it, I don't think it was a writing
Then
time discrepancy. I think it was just like a crazy back and forth scenario. Like 10 points got scored in less than a minute, in less than 30 seconds or something.
I remember the match being like kind of a discrepancy, like about or just kind of a controversy. I mean, of who won, but I can't remember the specifics of it. It's been too long.
Whatever it was. And then they go and review it with the head table and they're like, "No, like you didn't challenge it. He got his hand raised. That's it." Which I think is absurd. Like, come on, dude. This guy actually won the match in regulation on points.
Yeah.
But it's also not fair to Robuto, who thinks it's tied, so he doesn't wrestle to win it at the end. So I kind of see where it's coming from. But at least maybe re-wrestle the
Yeah,
match.
like we, yeah, but like in the middle of the NCAA's, when are you gonna find a time to re-wrestle the match?
You could find a time, bro. You could find a time.
That brings up an interesting story. Um, Dude, this last year at Fargo, Kale Ice Gang versus a kid from might have been California actually. So they had to wrestle each other two or 2 or 3 times, at least 3 times at the tournament, and the second time they wrestled it was for fifth place, or whatever. And Kale Ice Gang won, but the other team protested that there was like a lot of singlet grabs going on, and the ref didn't call it a fairway. They accepted,
Wow.
so they had to re-wrestle the fifth place match.
How did it go
Like
differently?
they were close every time, but Kale, the Wisconsin kid, got the win again, and it was so much fun because it was like one of the last matches going on before the finals.
I can imagine.
Literally, all of Team Wisconsin's on this side, Matt, like cheering for him, like it's a championship match. It was kind of crazy, but
Really?
he went. He wins a tight match to take fifth place or something, and then they come back like an hour later. He's already got his shoes off. He's ready to go home, and yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. Had to re-wrestle the match and everything.
Well, remember Tyler Dow versus Jake Aller?
I remember that they wrestled. Which tournament are we talking about?
They wrestled at Fargo. You remember this?
Was this our freshman year when he was a senior?
Yes.
Okay, I remember vividly, not vividly. I remember partially what happened, but go ahead.
I don't remember the details of it, but Jake Aller got his hand raised. They go off the mat. Tyler Dow and then protested, and I think they started the match
Wisconsin
just at the second period again.
Wisconsin
What's that?
protested,
Wisconsin protested, and
and you
Tyler
said they,
got to re-wrestle.
from the second period.
Yeah, from the second period, and Tyler Dow ended up winning it because I remember I hung up I turned off my phone after watching his match. I was like, oh shoot, Tyler lost, and then we're watching Fargo later, and he's in the finals. I was like, what? He definitely lost to Jake Aller. He definitely lost. I was arguing with people. I was like, he lost this match. I'm telling you, go watch the match. And we pull it back up, and he lost. But apparently there was like another. Maybe I'm embellishing here, but I remember it being like the second period or like the last 2 minutes or something re-wrestled, and Tyler ended up winning.
That's crazy. That I
You'd
don't
have to ask
understand
him.
how that's like done in a tournament.
I don't know. I think that was when the controversy happened, so that's when they continued the match. But it was weird. Jake Aller
That's
gets his
insane.
hand raised. They leave the mat. They come back and re-wrestle. It was kind of cool actually.
I have. Let's do this question first. When you were
Okay.
growing up, give me one match that you remember rest or like watching from NCAA that was like it just stuck with you forever. Like you vividly remember how that match went.
Well, I have when I started watching David Taylor was when I knew I wanted to wrestle. Like that was when I knew I wanted to be a wrestler. I wanted to do that. But that was like around the Southern Scuffle time. I was like, oh, this is exciting to watch. I want to do this. This is awesome. And I watched like every single David Taylor match that ever happened. I got caught up on the David Taylor lore, all that stuff. And but then I remember him wrestling Brandon Hatchett in the NCAA finals
That's the high guy, right?
2012. That's the Lehigh guy, yeah. He and David Taylor teched him in the NCAA finals, and I was like, just like so inspired by the fact that you could be at the toughest tournament in the country, wrestling the second toughest dude in the country, and tech fall him. It was insane. I was like, I want to do that. I want to be like that.
That's pretty cool. I remember that match too.
But the NCAA's, I could tell you the craziest match that I ever watched at the NCAA's, or at least when the crowd went the craziest. I was at NCAA's. My family and I were at NCAA's, and James Green was the number one seed, undefeated on the year, wrestling. What's his name? Minnesota guy, Dylan Ness.
Okay.
And he gator bacons him to his back and pins him number one seed. I've never heard a crowd go quite as crazy as that, other than in like a small packed arena. There's one other time where it was louder than that.
That's funny that you bring up Ness because I actually was going to bring up a match with his brother Jason
Ah, I know exactly what match you're gonna talk about.
with him and Dan Dennis.
Yeah, last 4 seconds.
Dude, I was such a Dan Dennis stan. I loved Dan Dennis. And my dad told me this story growing up. He's like, never won a state title, and he's still at college. Like, he's kicking ass. And it was just like, that was my guy. And then he's winning in the finals. with like 12 seconds to go. I'm getting excited. I'm like, yes, he's gonna win. He's gonna win. No way you get taken down to your back there. And I was like, that was the first time I was like, I don't know how I would recover from something that devastating.
I heard he didn't recover well.
I've heard that as well. But still, I
Isaac
was
Jordan Isaac Jordan told me some stories that I don't even know if I could say on this podcast.
really
Yeah,
off,
apparently
off air.
he went AWOL and I think dropped out of school and went to California, but he said some other stuff that was funny.
He pulled a Terry Brands.
Yeah, what was that? That was 2010, right?
That sounds right.
Um,
There was another one.
what did?
Oh, I'll
Well,
give
wait,
I'll,
wait.
I'll give one other match. What?
Um, what did you think? Were you still a super fan when he made the 2016 Olympic team?
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. I was very excited about that. I was happy that he beat Gorilla Guy. That's what his Instagram is. I don't know. Frank Molinaro.
No, he didn't.
He didn't beat Frank Molinaro. Am I wrong?
No, that's a different weight. Molinaro made the Olympic team that year.
That same year. Okay, maybe I'm mistaken. Continue.
He beat Tony Ramos.
Anyway, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I'm a bigger Dan Dennis super fan than you are.
I was a college stan.
College
See,
state. You're an
you're
Iowa guy,
about
dude.
freestyle. You're thinking about freestyle. I was my. Listen, man. I grew up an Iowa fan. I loved them. I loved Matt McDonough. I loved Tony Ramos, Brent Metcalf, Jason, or not Jason. Yeah, Jason Surtis. All of them. Montel
Brett
Marion.
Metcalf. Brett Metcalf, probably arguably one of the biggest celebrities in wrestling for his time, would you say?
Yeah, he's kind of that era right before David Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would Tony
You
Ramos
still
have
in
been overlapping there?
nah, it didn't overlap, no, because I
I
think I
think
think
Matt
Metcalf
McDonough
was 08 or
overlapped.
09. Um, maybe 1 year, maybe 1 or 2 years.
Okay. I'm trying to remember all the because like I get those two little eras mixed up because I was a fan right around the Metcalf era, and then I was a bigger fan that second one right there with like Ramos, uh, Brown, all the loft houses.
Do you think that there are still Iowa super fans to the same extent, or do you think that they've just migrated over to Penn State?
No, I think there are a lot of Iowa fans still.
You think there's less?
No,
I bet there's less.
I mean, there's less in the sense that I'm not a big Iowa fan anymore. I guess there's that, but
There's one less. There's one less than you.
it's calculable. It's me.
No, I just mean that there's like they're not the national champs anymore. I think you get a lot of fans when you are the national champions.
Maybe in sports that like get the casual viewers. I don't think wrestling gets a ton of casual viewers to care enough whether or not I'm going to side with
Well,
the.
no, but like club kids, like kids who
I guess maybe amongst younger kids, like going to Penn State's cooler than going to Iowa. I guess there's that.
yeah, you know what's very optimistic about the Iowa program? They have been down in the dumps for a while, but Bo Bassett committing to Iowa is gigantic.
I guess I could see how you could say they're down in the dumps is a strong statement. I mean, they're still ranked second in the country.
Comparatively, no, I mean Oklahoma State for sure occupies a lot of the talk in college wrestling right now. Penn State occupies even more. I think Iowa has been third, but what I mean to say is that in the past, Iowa's been number one by far, and they've
Yeah,
kind of just been slipping.
I would say relatively Iowa hasn't been talked about as number one since David Taylor came to Penn State. I think that's kind of the
Right.
last time that Iowa was seriously considered to be the top team in the country.
But no
Obviously,
less.
in between there, but still.
How's this then? I think for a time, people had been like they'd given up on the idea that Iowa in any time in the near future can be NCAA champions and compete with Penn State. Bo Bassett
That
starts the
helps
conversation again. It starts the conversation again.
for sure. Yeah, and I know that's kind of been a thing with Jax Forrest going to Oklahoma State as well. It's like, okay, these top level kids are going places that are not Penn State, so maybe we will see a change in the future.
Yeah, Bo Bassett is just, I mean, he's a celebrity at this point,
He
so
is a celebrity.
that's huge. But he's not substantially better, I don't think, than the Jax Forrest, the Marcus Blaze is. I mean, Marcus Blaze is for sure better.
Yeah, no, I don't think that Bo Bassett's like an unreal recruit. He's a very good recruit, but I think that Iowa's had very good recruits before. I think there's just a lot of notoriety around the name because of what he does.
Yeah, and he's a stepping stone. A lot of other kids who are really good will follow in his shoes because of that. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Follow in his
Well, so
footsteps,
here's
I
the
mean.
thing. My brother, I'll give him a shout out, Preston. He called this like when Bill Bassett was about to commit, like that night before we were talking. He's like, "Yeah, he's definitely going to Iowa." And I didn't think he would for a while. I just thought that that didn't make sense until we started talking about it. And if you were a personality in high school, like you kind of were making a name for yourself, you got interviewed a lot. Where would you go in college?
When I was in college, when I was in high school,
I'm saying if you were kind of if you had the same clout as Bo Bassett, where would you go?
Cal Poly.
I'd love to. Where do you go to school when like clout's your thing?
I guess
Where did Ferrari try to
I
go?
Iowa.
Iowa, right? Because they're the team that is like the noisiest, they're the bad boys, right? Everyone wants to be them. That's where everyone has a personality. Gabe Arnold's trying to start fake beef. It's just what they do.
Yeah, the
So
fakest beef.
yeah, dude, don't even get me started on that. I think obviously it's not his call. I don't think. I don't think he was like, let me just call him out and then I don't want to wrestle him. I think that would be insane.
Dude,
But
you know what's funny is as soon as he called out Iowa or Penn State, someone posted that press meeting and somebody commented and it got the most amount of likes. It said, "This makes me think he's not wrestling next week." And I laughed it off. I laughed it off because I was like, that would be you can't do that. But it just happened. Like I was like,
yeah,
you
I mean, I
can't
think
call them
that,
out and then not wrestle.
do you think that was a Gabe Arnold idea that he was just like, I'm gonna do this, and then after that, the coaches were like, hey, you're not gonna wrestle, or do you think it was like the coaches egging him on, hey, start some beef, maybe go get Starachi, start some beef, and then all of a sudden the coaches are like, whoop, just kidding, Ferrari, get in there, because that's gonna cause a lot of controversy
No,
too.
I don't think that's how. I don't
It
think
seems
that's how it
fake.
went
It seems like
down.
WWE to me.
Maybe sure, yeah, it could be a little WWE-ish. And that's fine. I totally like it being WWE-ish.
I
But
hate it.
if you do that call out, I love it. If you do that call out, make sure you wrestle that week.
Yeah, you go. Don't ever do this, but go kick Ferrari, like kick him in the calf. Be like, hey man, he can't walk.
Yeah.
I'm sick of this
Do so
match.
like I'm gonna make sure. Yeah. If I make that call out, I don't think Brands had anything to do with it. I don't think Brands and them really care about the hype or anything. Um, but if you
Really,
do make that
I
call out,
disagree with that, but that's okay.
I'm skeptical. I'm
Fair
skeptical
enough.
of whether
They
or not
make
they
that
would.
call out.
But and I don't think so. I don't think that they told him to do that. I think it came from Arnold. And look, maybe the coaches told him, "Hey, you know, we're gonna sit you out. Yeah, we don't think this is the right time." I'm totally fine to think that. But if you're Arnold and you're gonna call a team out,
He
and you've
called
been
Sriracha
talking
out.
trash, yes, and you've been talking trash to Srirachi, make sure you wrestle that week. If coach says, "Hey, we're gonna hold you back," they still got what, maybe three more duels left after this. Be like, "All right, let me wrestle this one more, and then I'll take 3 weeks off."
Do
Do
you think he
that.
has a way to stop them from doing what they want?
For sure. I think he has a say in the matter. He'd be like, no, I'm wrestling this week. I'm wrestling this week. I called him out. I'm gonna stand on business and I'm gonna do this. And it's
We don't
not
know how big a fight he put up. Maybe it wasn't his idea to start it in the first place.
and I don't think the brands like running from people or hiding from people, especially not guys who are ranked just ahead of them. You know what I mean? Like if you're the number whatever Arnold is, he was four at the time, or no, 4 to 6, right? And you get to wrestle the number one ranked guy in the country. That's a significant match. That has a lot to do with your ranking. That has a lot to do with, your development as a wrestler, wrestling this guy. And look, Ferrari wrestled him to a 3-1 match, right?
Yeah.
What if Arnold wrestles him to a 2-1 match? Now you go Big Tens, like I could beat this guy. I wrestled a 2-1 match with this guy. I could beat him. Then you go
I,
NCAA's and you beat him.
I saw Flo's kind of take on this. Do you think that this means that Ferrari's like entrenched ahead of Arnold? Like, do you think Ferrari's beating Arnold in the room? Did you
No, not
see?
at all. Because I saw Brand say that they're doing this to hold back Arnold so that he can peak.
Yeah, I think Flo. I think it was Piles that made the argument, but they basically said this is now twice. Once with Ohio State, I think it was when the duel was on the line, they put Ferrari out there. They had a choice to put Arnold out there. They put Ferrari out there. Duel was on the line,
That's it.
right? And
That's interesting.
now the top level guy, right? They still put Ferrari out there, not Arnold, even though all of these other things, like you said, right? It's great for his development. It's great for his seeding. It's great for his ranking. When you're the underdog, I tend to think that you want to get more matches with the guy who's supposed to beat you, right? Try to figure him out. Nothing made sense other than Arnold going out there, but they still sent Ferrari out there. Why?
Oh, you get me stumped there. That's a good argument. Um, and he did wrestle a 3-1 match with Starachi. I don't even think a takedown happened in the match, right?
Yeah, no. It was a stalling, it was a riding time, and then an escape.
So he is good enough, but I have no reason to believe that they're going to put Starachi out at Big Ten's NCAA's.
You mean Ferrari?
Or yeah, Ferrari. I don't think they're
I
gonna
don't think
put
they're going to
Ferrari
put
out.
Ferrari out either. I don't think they're going to put them out, or I don't think that they're going to put Ferrari out though either. But I think that the question should be raised, like, who's beating each other in the room right there?
Yeah, it would be interesting. I wonder too who's gonna go 74 next year because I think it's gonna open
I think
up
he's still there.
with Patrick Kennedy leaving.
Is Patrick Kennedy leaving?
I think this is his senior year.
I'm gonna double check that quick because I don't know if that's true or not.
I'll bet money. The dude's been wrestling a long time. Well, I remember he wrestled Alex Marinelli my senior year. Um,
Patrick. Yeah.
he was a freshman. Oh no, he's a junior, freshman, redshirt freshman. Oh wow, what? Oh, because COVID. Yeah, he's got one more
Where's your
year.
money? How much money did we say?
And we didn't put any money on it. You should,
Oh,
dude.
I thought I
You should have
thought you
said.
said you were betting money.
Um, I know I said I would, but you got to call the number out.
All right, I have another question. I was gonna ask this earlier, but
Let me hear
who
it.
was one national champion besides David Taylor that you were like, that was your guy? That was who you were like, I'm a fan of him growing up.
Um, gosh, let me think. I did love Andrew Howe for a while. He was awesome, and ironically, was not my style, not my body type. But I tried to wrestle like him a lot. I remember when he wrestled David Taylor in the Olympic team trials finals, or Jordan Burroughs, sorry, in the Olympic team trials finals. I watched that match repeatedly, and I tried to wrestle like him. If I'm if I'm not mistaken, were Kyle Dake and David Taylor in that same Olympic team trials?
I think so. Is that the same one that Ed Ruth was in and John Reeder were in as well?
That was later, I
That was
think.
later.
So think about that. Andrew Howe,
Are you talking about the
while
one Dake, not Dake, David Taylor cradled Burrows twice with that little roll through, like the roll through cradle
that's
one?
US Open. That's US Open.
Okay. What tournament are we talking
This
about
is
right now?
this is before that Olympic team trials when Andrew Howe wrestled Jordan Burroughs in the Olympic team trials finals. He lost 2 out of 3 pretty easily. He
Was that
he
at
wrestled him
Madison?
in Olympic team trials. No, that was in 2016. That was the same matchup.
Okay.
Howe made the finals again that year.
Okay.
But in 2012, Howe wrestled Jordan Burroughs for the Olympic team spot as well.
Okay. I
And I
remember it was kind of
think
Howe and Burrows
David
there
Taylor
for a
and
while.
Kyle Dake were in that weight.
I think that's true.
Yeah,
So Andrew, how's your guy?
yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Andrew Howe was my guy. I'm trying to think who else. It was usually middleweights. I liked watching. I remember Quentin Wright for Penn State was a guy I liked to watch a lot. Obviously David Taylor.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of watched a lot of them. Stieber was another one, four-time NCAA champion for Ohio State. I liked watching him.
I like to root against Seaver.
Root against him. Were you happy when Rutherford came out as a true freshman and beat him?
Um, I wouldn't say I was happy, but I don't know. I didn't like the way the match was wrestled. It was cool to see, right? I thought it like everyone likes to see the young guy kind of knock off the top dog.
Yeah.
Um, but if I knew it was going to lead into Rutherford's career, that I also rooted against him for, I don't know. I'm an underdog, man. I I like the underdogs.
Really?
Unless I know the top dog personally, I'm rooting for the underdog.
Well, that was probably one of the biggest upsets in college
For sure.
wrestling history, right?
For sure. Yeah, it is a big
That
one.
was sick.
You think Nolf over Martinez is a bigger one in the duel when he pinned him? I
Huge,
remember being
huge.
flabbergasted by that, bro.
Yeah, I would say one of the guys who, at least when I was in high school, I liked watching Nolf. Nolf was the man.
I enjoyed watching Nolf a lot.
But yeah, I remember the day that happened.
You remember the day that um, Wisconsin wrestled Penn State at Penn State, and who wrestled Nolf that day?
You cut out, I didn't understand, but I'm talking about when Nolf wrestled Martinez for the first time.
No, I know. I'm asking if you remember who Nolf wrestled from Wisconsin when we went to Penn State.
Devin Barr.
Yeah,
That was
that
funny.
poor that
He
poor
had a
kid
neck
had
injury for
a
like
concussion after that. Poor kid
he had
had
a
a concussion
serious
after
neck injury. Yeah,
got snapped
that
so
was
hard.
funny.
That was
Yeah,
also the same. That was also the same duel that I had to wrestle Mark Hall up 2 weight classes. That was fun.
and that was ironically, so we lost what, 10 points there in those two matches.
Yeah, I'm sure Penn State was expecting to get 12 though. So hey, win for us.
They were expecting to get 12, and somehow the Wisconsin team managed to score, I think, 13 points.
We scored a lot of points that duel. I was impressed. Like Tristan had that overtime win with Nick Lee.
Yep, Connor Brown won a match.
Connor Brown won his match. Cole Martin beat Berge. That was an upset.
Wow. Yeah, that was sick, dude. That was a cool match. And that place was packed. Dude,
Oh, dude.
people people don't talk enough about, you get the Iowa at the time everyone talked about the Iowa fans being crazy. That was my first experience with Penn State fans being crazy. They're yelling at us.
They were yelling at us. It was crazy.
Yeah, they were yelling with Smalley. Smalley was like our director of ops, bro. They were yelling at him and he was yelling back. It was dumb.
Smalley's going at it with whoever's there, bro. Ref, other coach, kids, doesn't matter.
And they put the student section right next to the
The
opposing
coaches.
team.
Yeah, right next to the
Yeah.
coaches. They're all sitting on the floor right there.
Yeah, and they're trash talking the coaches. I can only imagine. Because the Penn State Ohio State rivalry is awesome, but I can imagine Tom Ryan. He gets so furious when he's coaching. I can imagine that student section picking him apart.
They're just like, look at him. He's angry.
Yeah, they got to be trash talking him the whole time when he's yelling and yelling at the refs, and then they're probably just telling him to pipe down.
Speaking of high school all stars, you beat a high school all star that duel.
I beat the guy. My only loss my senior year was to Mason Manville. I wrestled him at that duel and beat him, I think 7-1.
Yeah, you beat him up. It wasn't really close.
No, he didn't really
You
have
were
much.
you were supposed to wrestle Joseph that day, Vincenzo Joseph.
Yeah, me and Joseph had like for 2.5 years not wrestled each other at all, and he was the number one guy in the country. At one point, I was the number two guy, and there was the number three guy, and we just dodged each other. We didn't wrestle each other for 2 years. Not my freshman year, not my sophomore year, and then he whooped my butt my third year.
That one time.
Yep, that was probably the
That's an
most that was
unfortunate day
probably
too.
that was the worst beating I got outside of Isaiah Martinez. Isaiah Martinez beat me up bad.
Isaiah Martinez beat you up bad. That was a crazy day because that
Yeah.
was the first time your now longtime girlfriend came to watch you wrestle. I remember that.
She came to watch me wrestle with all of her sorority girlfriends, something like 20 of them. They
She
watched
came
me
with
get beat.
girls.
Yeah, they watched me get beat 8-0 and then left. And that was it. And then I texted her and she texted me back and we lined up a date.
You're
She's been
like,
dating me
oh,
ever
so you
since.
still like me? Okay.
Yeah, it was a cool little test. It's like, all right, is she only gonna like me if I win? She
So is
didn't.
that why
She
you
still
lost to
liked me.
Joseph? It was to test your girlfriend?
That's why I lost. It was purely a test. Not everything's about wrestling. Not everything's about
Not
wrestling, you
everything
know.
about wrestling. There's a lot of life.
Yeah, Bono was probably very upset that I did that just for a girl.
Well, does he know that, or is this breaking news?
This is breaking news. We could have won one match that duel. I think we got
Hey,
shut
Jake,
out. Did we?
do we have a ticker on this? Can we put it on the bottom, just like a little ticker right here that says Evan Wick lost to Vincenzo Joseph to test girlfriend?
Yeah. And you know what? It helped me out. I've been wrestling better ever since.
And your relationship's still going strong. Look at you. Best of both worlds.
Yep.
That one loss is
It was
worth it.
sweet. It was worth it. I think though we got shut out that duel against Penn State
And
at
you wrestled
home
that.
in front of
So,
like 6,000 people.
yeah.
What was your favorite Wisconsin match to watch at home?
While I was on the team, I got a good one. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's my favorite. Let me think. I'll go with it. If there's a better one, I'll think of. I'll say it. But Andrew Crone majoring Tyler Berger at home with RT's dad going crazy.
I
That
don't
was
remember
a
RT's dad, but he
that was a fun match. Oh wait, no, that was he did that with Short when Crone beat Short in overtime. That's when RT's dad was going crazy. But the duel where he majored Berger, that impressed me. I was like, holy cow, he's good.
yeah, that was sweet. It's funny you bring up so that your short match was the one that you liked the most?
No, the one where he beat Berger.
Okay. Well, when he wrestled short, he was down 8-0, right?
Yeah, he was down a lot, and then he came back and beat him in overtime. That was a very fun match as well. I think the Berger one was more impressive, but the short one was pretty cool. Ironically, Crohn's
And
both of them.
dude, Crone has kind of a hit list.
Oh yeah, so like he beat
Pantaleo,
Leo. It's insane.
he beat Berger, I think twice.
Yeah, he was one guy I did not want to wrestle in the room because, dude, he tore my shoulders up the first year, just barring me everywhere.
Really?
Yeah,
He was uh
painful.
he was
It was a
crafty.
painful year.
What how would he tear your shoulders up?
Bars. He assassinated me so much, choking me out.
Really?
Yeah, that first year was brutal wrestling him.
Yeah, we had a good room around that weight because we had Isaac Jordan, we had Andrew Crone, we had Ryan Christensen. It was
We talk
pretty
about that
brutal.
first year.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, TJ was tough around there.
Um, TJ was tough. I think my favorite, I'm trying to think of an Isaac Jordan match. I know the Seth Gross versus RBY match was cool, but because he spladled him, probably the only time that RBY's been spladled. That was a super cool match.
Yeah,
But I think, I mean, I always liked the Isaac Jordan Logan Massa rivalry. So when Isaac wrestled Logan and almost came back and beat him, that was cool. I think he was down like 9-2.
that
Almost
was in
came
the
back
duel at
and beat
home.
him. Yeah, that was at home. So that was a cool match. Um,
You could say my Maryland match. That was a fun one.
your Maryland match and Ethan Rotundo's Maryland match. Lo and behold, I'm in Ethan Rotundo's room. Ethan Rotundo was a true freshman. He pulled his red shirt like
That
last
duel.
second. He was not good at the time. He was a freshman from Washington. It was like not really a great state. I don't know if he really competed too well with a lot of guys in high school, but he came
He,
in
he
and
was
we
he was good
pulled.
in high school.
Yeah, I think he was a two-time Washington state champ. But in all honesty, Washington is like, yeah. I hate to. I know Washington's catching. So it's getting caught in the crossfire here, but
He
um,
could just throw strays at Washington.
Washington's got to shape up. So is Oregon. But no, that those were some cool matches to watch. I enjoyed watching those matches. All of them online, I believe, too.
Yep, that was a good question.
Um, yeah, it was a good one.
What else?
Speaking of,
Yes,
UW had their first Big Ten win.
yes, Michigan State.
Michigan State. We beat them. We beat them pretty good too.
It kind of sucks that it came right after an ass whooping from Purdue, but we'll take the win.
The Purdue one's tough.
That
They're
was a
they're good where we're not, or they're good. They're better at our good weights.
yeah. The spots where we are getting wins, they're just better there.
Yeah. Um. So I think Nicolard, he didn't get teched. I think he got majored
11 to
by
2.
Ramos. Yeah, 11-2. So not bad. Um. So that was a good match, but otherwise the Purdue match did not go that well. But Michigan State match went well. I think it's weird because we're not quite as good at a couple weights. I know Cale Anderson when I watched him at 165, 174. Um, our guys are good. They're just not quite as good as the other guys in the Big Ten. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We Wisconsin actually put out a new 165 this week against Michigan State.
Which is interesting. I don't know. I thought Cale Anderson seemed pretty good for
Yeah, I kind
the
of thought he
team
was
this
the
year.
guy too. I don't know what influenced the change, but the guy they put out there won in overtime. Cody Gable, another Wisconsin
Really?
kid.
Yeah, good match. But so that has me optimistic. But unfortunately, they got University of Northern Iowa. Um, this is that this week?
Either this Friday or next Friday. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, and that's not going to go well.
Nope, I don't think so. They're moving up the polls actually.
Um, UNI,
Yeah.
UNI is an incredibly good team considering the resources that they have.
Oh,
They
do
didn't even
we?
have a wrestling room this summer, I don't think.
No, it was in the process of being built for like the last year.
Yeah, very very impressive what they've been able to do. Is that going to be? Yeah, so we'll be able to watch Parker Keckheisen February 21st at the UW Fieldhouse. That's sick.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be there, but
Um, if I was in Wisconsin, I'd be there.
the Friday, right?
I don't know. Yeah, Friday.
Your boys got a job.
Yeah,
Got
but
to
you
run
could show up
to the
7
fight.
p.m.
I practice until 8, man. Busy guy.
Damn. But I mean, yeah, that would be cool to go see Parker. I don't know. 184 is not necessarily a tough weight, so it's going to be kind of a beating. But it'll be cool for Wisconsin fans. This is Parker's last year. He's a senior.
I went to the WI Wrestle thing in Arrowhead where Missouri wrestled UNI, so that was kind of cool to see him in person there too.
That was cool. Missouri, UNI. Also, he
That
didn't
was
wrestle Sinclair because Sinclair was at 97.
yeah. Sinclair lost that match against the UNI kid. I can't remember his name right now, but anyway.
How has Sinclair been doing? Ooh, 5-4. But he had a tough schedule.
Yeah, I think he they've been putting him out there against some tough guys. I think they know that they're not going to pull his red shirt, so they want him to get the highest level of competition they can with what they can with the duels and stuff. So I think it's cool. I think it's good for him, good for his development.
Yeah, I think that's good. Um, Mirasola's been wrestling anytime recently?
I don't, I haven't seen anything that they've been wrestling recently, but
Maybe they're just doing the freestyle thing right now.
they might
Southern
be.
Scuffle was the last event. Um,
They do a lot of
but yeah,
training, like
that'd
you
be
said. Penn State doesn't really compete that much.
no, they don't. You would think for their freshmen though, it'd be good. There's nothing else going on. They might as well just wrestle some folk style events. But
A lot of their competition comes in the off season, though.
and it should. I get frustrated with a lot of college coaches wanting to focus on folk style for their true freshmen, and then they don't care about freestyle in the summer when it's like, dude, that's a world team. That's an incredible opportunity, and nothing else is going on in the summer. You have to
I,
commit to freestyle wrestling.
yeah, here's a question that I kind of have, and I think we probably think similarly on this, but I want to hear your thoughts. Would you say that making weight in college, as well as like just the grind of practices every day, is one of the toughest things to kind of handle as an incoming freshman?
Yeah, but I don't think it's nearly as tough as the pressure of having to win when you're the starter and you're not a redshirt.
Yeah, that I wasn't going to compare it to that.
Okay, but yeah, I think the toughest thing is kids figuring out folk style wrestling and the mat wrestling aspect of Division 1 wrestling. And then they gotta learn how to cut their weight right. Yeah, that's tough.
Cutting your weight right, and then I think a shock for a lot of kids, in my opinion, is, and I'm not saying the highest level of kids. I'm saying kids that were maybe like my level, right, around my level. They go to a college room and it's like, dude, it's murderer's row every day for a kid like me. You know what I mean? And battling through a lot of that is tough and it takes a lot of like time, energy, and I think Penn State kind of does it right for the freshmen where they're like, let's just focus on getting better at wrestling this year. I'm not worried about how you compete this year. We'll compete in the summer, right? Whereas, like you said, a lot of other college coaches are like trying to get their freshmen to as many tournaments as they can during the season. When it's like that is a tough transition period for a lot of people. That's more and more the red shirt's kind of going away. But even the kids who are on red shirt, I mean, it's like get their competition maybe in the summer so they can focus on how to balance life, weight cut, practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing, I think even since my freshman year, they've been saying that, these freshmen are coming in, they're good enough to compete with these college level guys, but I don't really. I bet if you look at the numbers, there's probably just as many kids redshirting their true freshman year. The 5 dates does change things a little bit, but I don't think that we're seeing a mass exodus of redshirts for kids' first year.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing. I think it's like select kids, but I think
Yeah,
schools
yeah.
are more willing to do it now than they have in the past. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Did you think that there was maybe that we had too many competitions as our true freshman year redshirting?
I don't know if too many is what I would say. I think doing it that way is more of a learn on the fly type of thing, right? There's this argument in football all the time. Like if you get a quarterback, should you let them sit for a year or two behind a veteran and figure out how the NFL works, how to work, how to go about your business, how to be the best you, right? Or do you
Hmm.
throw him in the game and then you try to just see what he's got and then he learns it on the fly? Because you get better with game reps, is what that argument is, right? And I think that Penn State's more of along the lines of like, no, we're going to let them sit, we're going to let them develop, they'll be ready when their time comes. A lot of other schools are like, no, let's throw them in there, let's get them a lot of matches, let's see what they can do, they'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah. Um, I think that being said, maybe pulling someone's red shirt could put a little bit too much pressure on the kid, but I don't think um, going and getting matches at open tournaments your freshman year is a bad idea at all, or hinders development. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. I think
I
those are just
think
kind of two to like decide between.
yeah, but I mean I think I can see what you're saying in Penn State doing that, but I don't think that I think that you can still develop kids and have them go to tournaments, especially their true freshman year when it's like they're not or their redshirt year when it's like, yeah, go to this tournament and however you do, you do. We're not gonna necessarily worry about peaking and getting you ultra prepared for this tournament. Just go there and compete with these guys and see how you do, and we'll adjust later. But the main focus, no matter what, your true freshman year should be development, and that's why I recommend a redshirt.
How many matches do you think that a redshirt freshman should be getting?
I think if you get 30, it's fine.
Really?
I got like
I don't
30.
think any of the redshirts at Penn State are getting 30 matches.
I don't think anybody on that team at Penn State is getting 30 matches.
So, who would you say is getting 30 matches? Like, what team is getting their backups, red shirts, 30 matches?
Um, I would bet if you look at UNI or South Dakota or a lot of those smaller programs, I bet those guys are Minnesota. I bet those kids are getting 30 matches.
Do you think that that could be one of the differences between Penn State and all the other schools, or do you think it's simply recruits and
No,
coaches?
simply recruits.
Okay.
I think I honestly think that I don't want to say silly, but I think that Penn State not wrestling their guys nearly as much isn't that great of an idea. I mean, at least from my perspective, when I wrestled in college, I got about 30 matches my redshirt year,
Yep.
then went on and trained for the US Open, then wrestled World Team Trials freestyle,
And you
and
wrestled a
I
lot of.
felt great. I just felt like it. I wrestled a lot, yeah. I remember, and then I took third at US Open. I took third at World Team Trials. So I don't think that it was a misstep. I think the matches don't really matter that much. I think what makes a lot of college wrestling matches hard is the pressure to win, and you have to prepare and you have to peak for this competition, and everything that goes into that is just kind of like the ups and downs of your training, and everything is kind of overwhelming. Where when I was a freshman, training remained the same, and it's just you happen to have a tournament every weekend.
Yeah. I don't know. That's good to think
And
about, though.
I'm big on you never know really what you need to work on. I mean, you can wrestle live and figure out what you need to work on. But let's put you in a match. Let's put a singlet on. Let's put you under the lights and see, what you really need to work on. I'm a big believer in matches. At least when I fly guys, I mean, my as a senior level athlete, I want to get as many competitions as I can. Like I'm going to Croatia. I went to Bill Farrell. I went to World Team Trials in September. I'm going to Albania now. And then I'll go to U.S. Open World Team Trials and hopefully Final X.
Right. And I think a lot of times, like, the difference between that is like a lot of people would see like you have a strong desire to go and compete, right?
Yeah,
I think people who see Penn State's or just kind of that thought process where it's like I don't need to compete all the time. I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, that person's just afraid of competition.
right.
Whereas I wouldn't say that anybody at Penn State's afraid of competition. I just think that that's kind of where they believe that they're best.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I don't think it's because they're scared of competition, but I think Penn State has the luxury of whatever they do, that's what contributes to them being so successful. Oh, they do this technique. Oh, they don't wrestle that much. Oh, they do freestyle in the summer. Like, which I do think that freestyle in the
You're
summer
saying
helps,
some of
but
it's a byproduct.
what's up?
You're saying some of it's just kind of like a byproduct of they were already going to be good regardless of whether they competed or not.
Exactly. They're going to be good regardless of whether or not they wrestle a bunch of their freshman year or wrestle early in the season or later in the season. Like, whatever they do, they're going to be successful because they have five Olympic champions in their room every day.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I, I hate to simplify it so much, but to me that is what it is. It's like you have the
Yeah.
best room, you have a lot of resources, things are going to be, you have the best recruits.
All right. One last question, and then we can start to wrap it up. But I like doing this a lot. When we go back to college, like thought process, who was the funniest guy on any one of our teams and why? Like, what made them funny to you?
On our teams, because I have a guy who is funny on the Cal Poly team.
Yeah, our teams.
Ah, funny. I
No
remember
one's funny on our team.
Q was pretty funny.
Q is pretty funny. I remember Q. Yeah.
Isaiah Quintanilla, he was pretty funny. He had a lot of energy. He'd call guys out. He kept it pretty real. Isaiah Quintanilla. Um,
Yeah, he had a nice light mood about him all the time.
I thought Barr could be kind of witty and funny,
Yeah,
uh, but he was a goofball.
yeah, he was a goofball.
He's just a Wisconsin guy. He'd drink a beer and start cracking some jokes. He's funny.
Obviously, after he was 21.
After he was 21, of course, but like he was a holdback, I think. So most of us were 21 by our second or third year.
But you were definitely you were like what a 2 year holdback. You were an old guy.
For sure, yeah. I was 21 my second
Second
year in
year,
college.
insane.
Second year, yeah.
Man, you're old.
Who do you think was the funniest?
It's a good question. You know who is an underrated funny guy?
Let me
Paul
hear it.
Conrad.
No, no, he wasn't.
Paul Conrad was underrated funny man.
He made memes, but in person, he was not that funny.
Yeah, I know. I've not even talked about his memes, dude. I never saw his memes.
I don't remember him saying too much funny stuff to me.
I just thought it was funny. I guess I don't know.
He was a quiet kid from Indiana who had like what, 10 siblings?
He had a lot of siblings. Yeah,
10 siblings. He was the youngest of all of
I
them.
think Brady Wetter was funny. Brady Wetter was pretty funny.
You know who's underrated funny? Was
Yeah, who?
Craddy, because Craddy had some crazy stories.
Crash does. Yeah, he does have some crazy stories. Who else is funny?
I'll never
He,
forget.
he was a
It
good.
was the middle of um well, I'll never forget with Craddy. It was the middle of season and dude, it was like just the dog days of like February when it's freezing cold and I think I had just lost to like I think I lost to Vincenzo or something and I'm like really don't want to do this practice and we're all sitting by the bleachers stretching out beforehand and Craddy tells me a story about when he was a kid. I'm gonna tell this story for him in shorthand on the thing. When he was a kid, he was on a private property apparently with a BB gun with his buddy,
Yeah,
and he's like, "Dude, we're in the middle of nowhere," and this really suspicious figure comes out of the woods, and it's like a big dude. And they were little kids. It's like a big dude. And he's like, "Dude, we're in the middle of nowhere, so we're incredibly vulnerable." And this guy starts like yelling at them for being on private property. Grady said he must have been 10, so I'm not insulting him here, but he said he pooped his pants and he looked at his buddy and he was like, Daniel, shoot him. But Daniel had the BB gun. It's like, Daniel, shoot him. And Krat ran away. And Daniel stayed there while the dude yelled at him.
I
And I
can't believe you
remember
told
Kratty
us.
and I remember Kratty telling me this story and I started crying laughing. It was so funny. And
Is that
I
why
will
everyone
never
called him
forget that.
Poopy Pants?
I think so. I think that's why everyone called him Poopy Pants. We all were cracking up, dude. It
Dude,
was
I
the
cannot
funniest
believe you just
story
told that
ever.
story on here.
How you guys can edit it out? It was PG.
Not for
Kraft was a
him,
funny
bro.
guy, dude. Nah, I've reminded him of the story and how much it meant for me as, the dog days of Wisconsin or college wrestling, and he like brought some sunshine to that dark, cold wrestling room.
I always got a kick out of your arguments about how you could fight a kangaroo. I always thought those are funny.
And more, I'm finding evidence that human beings could very easily take down a kangaroo. And you know what else? The argument about whether or not a gorilla, a 400-pound animal, a gorilla could beat a 2,000-pound crocodile in a fight. And somehow 30 people on the team thought that the gorilla would win as opposed to the 2,000-pound crocodile. It was insane.
Yeah, I
Do
don't know
you
how I feel about that.
did you like the Wisconsin wrestling room?
I kind of liked it. I
I
do
love it.
think that
Everyone.
it'd get dark and dingy for sure, like you said in those dog days when it was cold, like miserable. But I liked it in the sense that like I thought it was pretty unique. I liked that the weight room
Mhm.
was over there. Um, I didn't mind it. I liked the room. I thought we had everything we needed.
Yeah, I would not, if I was the head coach, I would not try to get a new wrestling room. That's how much I like that wrestling room. I mean, I'm kind of a nostalgic dude, but I actually like the pillars. I like them.
I never minded the pillars.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it added a character. You've got the weight room right there. You've got the bleachers. You got everything you need. Plenty of mat space. I never remember running into anybody, but I know a lot of people in Wisconsin hate that wrestling room. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. A lot of people say that that's like a reason that we can't get recruits, or that's why recruits go
I've
to
heard
like
that.
Minnesota because the room is better.
I've got to say, yeah, those other rooms, Minnesota, Michigan, they are nice. Like when you go in there, it's state of the art. It's really high-end wrestling room. But you know what? I think my opinion is completely skewed here just because I have so many memories in that wrestling room. I loved it.
Well, here's a topic too: is like if you were an incoming freshman, say, and you didn't have all of these memories and nostalgia in the Wisconsin room, right? Would you care
Okay.
more about being in Minnesota or Michigan's wrestling room versus Wisconsin's when you kind of add in everything else that Wisconsin has, right? I thought the nutrition center that Wisconsin had when we were in school was unbelievable. The way Nick Arias got us right, dude, like that was top tier nutritionist stuff. I don't know how you feel about that. I just
Yeah.
thought that like the room was never something that I thought needed to be a perfect thing. Like that was kind of like bottom tier priorities, in my opinion, on picking a room. Is it cool? For sure. Does it have any factor in where my decision is to go? Not at all.
I wouldn't say any, but very, very, very small.
Unless I hate to call out Kent State here, their room sucks. Have you been to Kent State's room?
It's insane. It's like a triangle, isn't it? It's a really weird layout.
It's tiny. It's weird. Do you remember Rutgers when we went through that one year?
Rutgers was so bad, but the room is really cool now.
It's really cool now, but it was like that was like levels below Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think the only rooms to this day that are just as bad as ours are um, Michigan State and Indiana. Big Ten,
Really,
Big Ten, Big Ten. Yeah.
just as bad as you really think that Wisconsin is that bad, huh?
Well, I mean, just not renovated like Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Michigan, Penn State. Like those are all brand spanking new rooms.
Is
But
Iowa
nonetheless,
and when we were there?
no, it's different. They got like a $2 million new room, or maybe even more than that.
Okay.
So completely new. But you know what's cool about the Wisconsin wrestling room too is that it's in Camp Randall. It's in the football stadium. So you kind of feel like you're in the middle of everything. You're a part of the university. You're a part of the football dynasty. Like so it's super cool. You just feel like you're kind of tucked in there and you're a part of, the glamour of University of Wisconsin. I would hate if they got rid of that room and moved like across campus somewhere or down by Dijon, I'd be like, dude, why? Like now we're out in the middle of nowhere. I would have hated that.
Yeah, I like it the way it is. It was great for handball too, right? We were able to kind of use the out of bounds line with that tape and go backside if we wanted to. A lot of different things that we could do
Yeah,
in there.
the mat handball was awesome. I mean, we could probably use some new mats. I've heard that they're like Dolomer mats now,
Well, yeah, it's like
which I
that one
hate.
that's got the thing on top that like kind of scrapes your knees. You know what I mean?
It's like a Ziploc mat, kind of.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a I don't even know how to describe it. It's like slick, right? You run your hand across it, there's just no grip on it. It's that gradient
Yeah,
feel. It
yeah,
just
I totally hated it. I hate that stuff. But
yeah, I like a nice
yeah,
squishy mat.
yeah, I like a Resolé mat. I think that's the best kind of mat. But other than that, I would not change the wrestling room. Maybe get some bigger windows in there. But
Yeah, the
before they
windows
took down
is
the
real
shell,
hard.
yeah, but before they took down the shell, you're looking at the shell. Now they're gonna erect something else, but for the meantime, now you can see that quick trip that's over there.
Yeah, have you been in the wrestling room? I haven't been in there since they took that shell down, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, it should be a fairly clear view now. I think Camp Randall does
Yeah,
kind of hang over the windows, so like you see the tops of that, but
you do.
you're right. It should be able to see through it still.
No, you can't because from quick trip I can see the wrestling room windows. So
When is the last time that you went to that quick trip?
Maddie's birthday, October 27th.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was there. But gosh, not a bad not a bad wrestling talk. Lots of good
No, it
stuff to
was
talk about. Talked
enjoyable.
about Iowa, our favorite wrestlers, just good college wrestling fun.
And
Um,
hey, all of our listeners, if you guys, all of them, all like 30, if you guys want to support us more, like, subscribe, get on the YouTube. We're on Spotify now, right? We are everywhere. So you guys can listen to us whenever, however, all of that. Still no sponsors
yeah,
yet.
if,
We
we'll get one. But yeah, if you guys like anything of the stuff that we're talking about, make sure to send it to some of your buddies. Wouldn't be a bad idea.
ask us questions, things that you guys want us to talk about. We'll give you our takes on them, all of it.
Yeah, for sure. Message me, Evan Wick 86 kg on Instagram, and I will talk about anything you guys want me to talk about.
We have our own
Literally anything.
now, right? Evan's finally gotten us off the ground there.
Taking charge.
Still
Got
got some
clips
posting
there.
to do.
Follow us.
Still got some
Yeah,
posting to
yeah, I gotta
do.
post another clip. Yeah. But yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Evan Wick,
Patrick Spray.
and this is episode 9 of Washed
Walk
Up.
up.
Sweet.